Well, hello and welcome to our another wonderful Wednesday webinar. I will be your host today, Elizabeth Hamlin, Associate Consultant at the CSUB SBDC, and I am pleased to present Tom Weir, Lead Consultant with the CSUB SBDC, and we're going to be talking about his blueprint for small business success. A little bit about the America's SBDC network. There are 1,000 centers across the United States, coast to coast, funded by the SBA and local governments. And all centers are there to help clients with a myriad of topics to improve your business. So if you aren't a client of ours or one of your networks, please reach out to them and get some help on growing your business. The CSUB SBDC is a member of the Central California Regional Network. And here we cover Kern, Inyo, and Mono counties. And interestingly enough, we cover the northernmost and southernmost part of this region. And shout out to those of you who are visiting us from some of our other regional partner centers and to
Yeah, if any of my existing clients, this is Tom, if any of my existing clients are listening in, God bless you. You want to hear my voice again, that's fine with me. You're a conscientious person.
So a little bit about our webinar interaction today. Please ask questions. We love questions. There's a lovely Q&A box located in the bottom of your screen. And if you're using a mobile application, I believe it is on the side. If you raise your hand, I won't be able to answer your question directly unless you submit that Q&A. So please use that function. And also all attendees are muted. And please complete the survey emailed after the webinar is over. This will help us determine how well we did and what kind of webinars you would like to see in the future. Also on that survey, please mention if you would like the handouts provided from this webinar. Tom is happy to share his blueprint with you, and it's a great tool to use before you sign up or before you come in so that we can get to work on your business. So some tips. The mobile application works great, but we do recommend using the computer so you can view the slides, get some interaction with our interactive polls, and submit the questions much easier. What we do at the CSUB SBDC is provide high quality, no cost, confidential, one-on-one consulting. And that can be in person, can be over the phone, can be through virtual chat rooms. We are able to help you as long as you are in our service area. And if you are not, then there will be an SBDC close to you that can help you. The training for small business owners and a variety of topics is another thing that we do. Our webinars are considered training, and we also have in-depth classes for small business owners. If you would like to sign up to become a client, you can visit us at our new website, csubsbdc.com, or our existing website, which many of you know. So our next webinar will be on July 25th with, bless you, Jim Blassingame, the Small Business Advocate, which I spelled wrong. I apologize for that.
Spelled wrong? Was it two S's?
I messed it up. But
okay.
Tom and I had done a webinar with Jim in April covering, customer.
Oh, that was a great topic though, because he showed the old world was a seller's age. He called it. That was an age. It was a seller's age versus the customer age. Today it's the customer age. And it was all about the fact that the customers can get information on the internet about your business, and in olden days could not. So you kind of controlled the information, but now the customer controls the information, and it's a real game changer.
Yes.
It requires the business to be more acutely aware of what's going on out in that marketplace, which is what we're going to talk about today.
Absolutely. It ties into today's topic. Our webinar with him in a couple weeks, or with Jim Blassingame, will be on digital ethics and how are we building trust on the internet.
It's his newest book, right?
It's his newest book, The Third Ingredient.
And he's a radio personality, I understand too, but I think it's out east. I haven't picked him up. But
yes, he's daily radio show, and he's a syndicated columnist and a multi-award-winning author. And today's webinar is with Tom Weir.
This guy I'm not familiar with. Tell me more.
Okay. So Tom has been a business consultant for over 24 years. He's helped hundreds of business owners in diverse industries become more productive and profitable. He predominantly works with business owners who want to shift from being the primary technician or working in their business to the primary strategist and working on the business. And that is a huge part of this blueprint today. So Tom also has a Bachelor of Art in Business Administration and in Economics, and he is always continuing his education.
Yes, lots of stuff there.
And without further ado.
Do they ever show a shot of us? Do they know we're really here and live?
Here we are.
Oh, there we are. Okay. Hi, everybody. Good to see you. Thanks for joining us, number one. And thank you, Elizabeth, for sharing your time, too, to be a co-conspirator here in this presentation.
We're going to launch this poll and see.
Oh, we need a poll. Yes.
Yeah. We're going to see what stage is your business in. We want to know if you are a pre-venture, if you are a startup, if you are already in business for 1 to 5 years or over 5 years.
I mean, if you're successful and made it past 5 years,
kudos.
You're something else. The clients I work with in my private practice are like 10 and then 20, and now some are already 30 years in business.
That's awesome.
Only working with business owners who still work in their business, but are looking for that light at the end of the tunnel.
Right.
I too have a strong appreciation for anyone that can be successful that long.
Absolutely. And so we have numbers rolling in, and it looks like about 33% have been in business for 5 or more years. I'm going to end the poll and share the results with you. So we have 28% of our viewers today are pre-venture, 22% are startup, 17% are in business for 1 to 5 years, and 33, 5+ years. So thank you all for joining us.
How much are startups? How many are rather?
28%.
Wow. Well, this tool we're going to talk about today works for startups as well as existing businesses who are, launching new products or ideas or expanding their business. If it sounds like I'm leaning more towards the startups, this is going to work either way. And the caveat is that you can always come in and allow us to offer you our services and get more information in your circumstances. If you've been in business over 5 years, you know that's quite a statistic. Everybody reads statistics. That starting a business is tough. Staying in business is even tougher. I was just reading a Forbes article currently, and they said, and I know our director, Kelly Bearden is his name. Kelly said, don't tell him that number, but I'm going to tell you that number because I think you're all big boys and girls. He said, Forbes said 90% of startups fail. So of course the operative question is, well, how did the 10% survive? Well, they do what we're going to suggest today. Number one, the ones that failed kind of set the premise for today's webinar. They fail because they have products and services nobody wants. Now, can you imagine that? You put your hard-earned money, energy, and time into a product and build this company or a service, and nobody wants it. The second thing is they get caught in the minutia of the business. They work in the business instead of on it. That's an old Michael Gerber philosophy where if you build a business around you as the primary technician, it kind of keeps you hopping in the client fulfillment arena of your business where you're producing and delivering a product or service as opposed to making sure you build out all the other business processes. This tool we have today is designed to keep your eye on everything. And I know that's hard when you're juggling so many balls as a business owner, but that's kind of the life of the business owner. So I'm hoping that with this tool, your takeaway will be that you actually have a format that allows you to put your business vision on paper. If you haven't done this at whatever stage you are as in the are in your business. You need to do that because that's how you create your strategic plan long-term, obviously, if not short-term, as we're talking about primarily here. Once you put it on paper, then you can shore up any weak areas, or areas if they look weak could be risky in your case. But in all instances, you need to get this thing completed before you run out of time, money, or energy, because so much of it is propelled by a concept we're going to bring up, which is called customer development. And you've all heard of business development. Well, this is customer development. And in customer development, you really have to look at your market and your product mix and make sure that it's not based solely on assumptions, which brings up the other takeaway, and that is throughout this process today, think in terms of what that one thing is. If you've ever read the book One Thing, you'll know how difficult that can be. But the one thing that must be true for your business to work. What's that one thing, that maybe that one assumption you're making that will determine if your business is a success? I often use the Field of Dreams movie. What was his name? Mike Bell. No. Kevin Costner. Thank you. Elizabeth, you whispered that. You could have shouted that. Kevin Costner, he said, build it and they will come. Well, that's not always true for every business, is it? Because if you made the wrong assumptions and they're not facts, that can be a place where you'll fail immediately. So just before we get into how this tool looks and what it involves, you must know that it has evolved. And it's evolved because over the history of our center, we've been following authors and books on a similar model of this model, this worksheet, this tool that we're going to present to you. And historically, we've been true to our conviction that it's real and that it's useful, and more than that, it's vital to our business consultant, our business clients that our consultants work with, and something that we've presented every year in some manner or form. So Elizabeth was kind enough, you put a little history of slides together, how we've emphasized this over the years. So this is just the initial, hey, here's three of the 4 or 5 books that are out currently.
Yeah, so some of the principles of this blueprint are derived from the value proposition design, the business model generation text, running lean and scaling lean. And interestingly, these are more geared towards a product, the software. And what makes this product unique is it's focused on
I'm glad you brought that point out. Yeah, if we conferring with the other consultants, with the director, the sense was that it was really a software product they were emphasizing in a lot of these books. So you were kind of the first guy or gal out in the marketplace, which added more risk to your time, money, and energy. We thought that we have a broader base in clients, and that the one we've developed is more user-friendly. I know that everybody says that, but it's a little easier to use. It asks questions more than anything else in each category of these 9 blocks that we say are going to build your perfect model. And we've given them all a title that starts with a C word, and we'll see that in just a second further. But what did that 2013, this is what we were emphasizing, weren't we?
Yep, when we first started broadcasting webinars back in 2013, this was the first model that was used, and it's very much based upon those previous texts.
What was 14 then?
2014 showed how customer development is more important than the initial product introduction model that is the old
say that's still the overlay of the present day one. Without customer development, you can run into some issues. So what was 15? That was more of a scalable. I think today's conversation more about is it even a viable business, let alone profitable business, and that got us into scalable back in 15. What year was this? Was this?
This is a theme that's run through many of the lean canvases through the years, which is what most people think is, it's
kind of
The
scary.
fork
It's
in the
kind
road.
of, what is that, like a snake's forked tongue? You either win or you lose. And it's really more iterations of experiments, isn't it? It's like, I'll try this, there's plan A, and I'll fail, but I can go to plan B, taking iterations, the good stuff, obviously, from the last one, and kind of work my way down, failing as I go, but failing as quickly as I can to not run out of time, money, and energy again to get to a successful business. And again, the point of showing that is that we've been true to the fact that we think there's something really, really keen here and usable by businesses, and that allows them to kind of control and organize their thoughts, because you can see now at the full shot of the
2016.
Oh, that was
model.
still 2016. Yeah, that was another iteration that preceded the one we're going to show you today. Show them today's.
So 2017.
Oh, and then we still had another one in 17. Wow.
This was more of a STEM discussion rather than literally asking questions. So what kind of partners do you have? What are your customer segments? And nowadays,
So we went back. Now we're back to more questions. We think this is more usable, and we think it presents enough questions in each category that will make you a more well-rounded business owner, and something that you can truly show your constituents. In particular, if you bring in any partners, strategic or otherwise, or in particular you bring in lenders, they're going to probably need something more formal. But I've seen cases where clients have just shown this plan to a spouse and other relatives, and everybody is kind of awestruck at how wonderfully they've organized their thoughts and how they've thought through how this business will work in its entirety. We see so many people, skilled, technically driven clients here at our office who can get caught just making something they have a passion or love for, whether it's food or it's a garment or it's cosmetics or otherwise, and then they kind of lose sight of all the other aspects of the business that have to be built. And then our emphasis today, as Elizabeth's pointed out a couple times, it's this whole customer development thing where they can't divorce themselves of figuring out truly what people want. So what was our best question? Oh, those are questions to consider. Go ahead.
yeah, so how will you produce, deliver, and market your product or service, and how will you make money?
Is the overall ringing question of this
Absolutely.
tool. That's why we're using it.
And we want to build this business model so it's profitable, scalable, and sustainable before you run out of money or energy. And
sorry, and we keep saying that 100 times, but it's just true. You run out of time, money, and energy, and your business is going to go out the door. And again, that's why looking at all aspects of the business process has to be completed early and followed. Otherwise, the complications start. So what was our? This was our question.
We're gonna start getting into the customer development, and this is all a part of this very, very crucial part. Is you need to know who your customer is and whether or not they are asking for that product, which it's been asked, it's been talked about. But as Kelly Weird, our director, brought up, you can have this idea of you want to have a business, you want to have a pizza business. So you have the product, but how are you going to deliver that product? Are you going to be a dine-in? Are you going to be a takeout? Are you going to be a take and bake? Are you going to be frozen? Are you going to be a food truck? Are you going to make pizzas from your own home? Is that some kind of competition in there? Are you making sure you're meeting your customer, and how are you better than your competition? These are the crucial questions that are going to be addressed in these next few slides.
I might add, in this condition, I mean, when someone comes to me and says, I want to start a trucking business, and this is a real life story, and then I'll ask, well, what's going on in the industry that you're aware of, or you've observed or experienced that tells you that the world needs another trucking company? And if they say, I don't know, perhaps more research is needed. If the only reason this person started a trucking company or desired to was the boyfriend drove a truck, it puts that push on the market we talk about, where is there really something there, or I'm just kind of trying to invade that market and I won't be successful because they don't want me there, or something pulling me in that I'm aware of. maybe that's enough on that one.
Yeah.
Because I think we need to get to
The change.
core ones here.
Yeah, the change. How would you fix, change, or improve what is happening in the market?
Well, then just flip to the next.
What must be true for your idea to work?
Well, that one's critical. I've said that in the takeaway. If you need to really think about, if you've made an assumption about this business and the whole business is dependent on that, like our Field of Dream example, you build it and they'll come. Well, when you build it, you've spent all your time, money, and energy building that. You've probably got borrowed money, you brought partners in, and you've spent a lot of resources. And then you find they don't come, what do? So it goes past this because it goes to that next slide, which is your claim.
What benefits, that is, what value would your product or service offer to consumers?
A lot of entities call that a value proposition, but it really gets down to those last three. And I think the middle one is the most pertinent one, it's jobs. Just think about what you and your family do to get through a day. All the jobs you have to complete, and I'm not talking about just the job or the work or employment you do, but all the things you have to do just to keep your household and your family together. You got to get the children fed, maybe you have to get them to school, and the dog stinks, I need to get them shampooed, I need to cut the lawn, I need to bring food into the household at the end of the day. And you see answers to that coming up in the marketplace. They're saying, well, if those are jobs you have to complete, how do we make it easier? How do we make it more time worthy? It's time being probably the biggest pressure we all have. Yes.
Yeah. How do we alleviate the pain of the customer, which is the time constraint? What are we not able to do?
And that's why they have Uber. You don't feel like driving, or you want to have an adult cocktail and don't want to be driving, and you hire Uber. But Uber now delivers food as well, because they say, oh, that family likes to eat, but you can see they're trying to come into the marketplace with an idea that is going to save people time. And the real question is the person, the customer in this case, or the client, gaining anything? Or are they alleviating any pain? And yet, is it enough? Is it the highest list in their hierarchy? I mean, it's like I can say this is a pain for you, but you say it's not worth my energy to worry about it. I don't mind cooking every night. I don't need Uber to bring food in. Let's say, but it goes to the heart of the claims you're going to make, because if you don't have customers that want this product or service, as our good friend Forbes would say, and that leads to 90% of the failures, then you better get on top of that one fast, right? So what are we developing here? This is the customer now.
Yeah. So list the customer characteristics that you've assumed, observed, or verified.
And we go here all the time, don't we? Because we go, if you don't intimately know your customer, then you have to be trouble throughout your business career. But at the get-go, it's an understanding you have to come up with quickly and accurately. And we always think in terms of the characteristics as demographics and psychographics and geographics. Just picking on the demographics, you're looking for those things that are homogeneous with your clients. It could be education, it could be income levels, it can be, are they family, single, male, female, are there ethnic implications? Are they all those things that you can characterize people go into that fold? And how pertinent is it to you? You could be, I think on that earlier slide, we even asked if they were a business to business or a business to consumer. And that's interesting to know. And some clients I work with touch both of those segments. And so our suggestion when we work with you is, if you're in this customer segment, to identify one segment at a time. Just pick on one, pick your best shot, and then develop the model around it, that segment. What are other questions?
So cannot convince a customer they have a must-have problem. We've touched on that.
That goes to the heart of everything we're saying here. You can't force someone to have a problem. No, it's not. I know it's your problem. I built this business around this problem. You must accept this problem and you must buy my product. So I'll look at I'll do the helicopter view of this tool initially with my clients. We'll just look at it and say, okay, over here, what's going on? You're going to let's say you're going to build a product. Well, it's easy and convenient and inexpensive to do that. Build prototypes today, thanks to 3D printers primarily. And so the question isn't so much today, can you make this product? Can you build this whatever? It's more a question, should you? Because again, back to our flavor and then taking us all the way across the top of the tool to this customer segment here is, will they buy it?
Mm-hmm.
Do they want it? If they don't want it, do you have a business?
Mm-hmm.
No. And if they won't pay what you say is your price, and let's say you've dropped your margin to as small as you can make it and still produce it and get it in the marketplace, and they won't pay that price, do you have a business? No. So these coming up with these conclusions as quickly as you can, because you're really laying out plan A on this tool, what should be plan B? That was that zigzag, fail, 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 success. What? We ran into a dead end. This isn't a segment that wants this product. Oh, there is a segment over here that does. How do you do that? Well, that customer development process helps you do that, number one, because it'll, some of these offers that we identified will say to you, get out of the office. And all they mean by that is get on the street, find out what's going on. You can observe. You can certainly pay big dollars for outside research firms to do all kinds of studies for you. And hopefully they're on the mark for your product or service. But you can observe. You can go interview. What else can you do?
You can go where they congregate online and ask questions.
Create an experiment. That's a good one.
I think that's a huge thing that we have. Social media is such a powerful tool for business nowadays. If you have a following and people obviously care about your brand, your passion, what you're doing, why not find out what's really important to them? If a product's not selling, if your logo coloring's not right, reach out to them and get feelers. That's another way. So you can hit the pavement and you can reach out to your community you've developed or you know where they are.
And that's a great point. And plural there. I have had clients that have actually created and invented things that actually got patents for these inventions. And there's an entity called Green to Gold. It's a professor out of Santa Barbara University. And he, for 45, I think, almost years now, he's created this entity called Green to Gold. So he's kind of into the green stuff, environmental, and things that make gold and make money and are successful businesses. But he has a very inexpensive process where he does field surveys for you. And I've had clients use that if you don't want to go out and experiment on your own. But that community is a great point, Elizabeth, because our friend and author, Blassengame, would actually tell you that when I give you a list of, or if someone gives him a list of characteristics that are just demographics to a market, he says, well, that's pretty static. Where it's dynamic is online and in communities. Because if the theme is fishing, I don't care if they're 8 years old or 80 years old, they're going to congregate someplace to get their information and need for fishing.
And so they can validate you or your product.
So if you sell fishing lures or fishing rods, you'd want to be in that community. And then there are ways to become a valuable part of the community before you start selling products. And that's how all of that social media works, I understand. So what are we up to now? Contact? Are we doing okay on time?
12:34.
So we're clicking along here. The contact, oftentimes our authors are emphasizing more, how did you touch them? I have, as a matter of fact, I have lots of clients in the past that have used the term touch points. Any place where you touch a client, you need to really orchestrate that in a way that's intentional. But having said that, I like the theme that it's not only how you have to broadcast your marketing strategy is broadcasting some kind of message to the world.
Mm-hmm.
So where are you going to broadcast that? And there's traditional marketing, obviously, or advertising.
Or Main Street, as you call it.
There you go. And then there's also the virtual or the social media side. And
so how will you reach your target market?
Huge question. And then you kind of have to know that market. And that's why we said community as part of the social side of that, right?
Mm-hmm. How will you generate leads?
And that's a biggie. I mean, how do you get them to come to your website, give you a phone call, show up on your app? All the methods that we can reach people show up on Facebook.
The call to action is crucial.
Call to action is vital in that case. And then how do you convert those
to sales
leads to actual customers or clients? It's a sales process, and everybody has to have an intentional sales process. In particular, if you're working B2B, business to businesses, you're going to be facing those people at some point, hopefully.
How will you fulfill your promise, and how will you deliver your product or service?
That's that old Michael Gerber again. If you're the technician in your business, spend a lot of time in that fulfillment arena, you're actually producing what you promised. And so if you're a manufacturer, that's manufacturing. If you're a car or auto dealership, you've got to figure out those banking arrangements to fill your lot with automobiles so that you can sell to your clients. If you're a roofer, it's getting that technician on that roof and actually replacing it. It's all of those methods and more, and then it's delivering and having a process for that. And then so we kind of go through these quickly. They sound kind of glib and easy, and yet when one sits down, and even if you sit down with one of our consultants, you'll find it's a really time-worthy exercise. This will help you tremendously. We get into costs, and there are lots of issues there. If we do have
like what
about
kind of
a handful of clients that actually manufacture clothing, and they're, in particular, the protection side is real. They actually produce something, right?
Yeah. What are those costs of production? What are the costs of goods sold?
They need to know that, especially when they make strategic decisions about the level of production and how many of what quantity and where they're going to offer these products. It gets into that whole issue of variable versus. We're kind of strict on that. We like to see business owners know the distinction between variable and fixed expenses. I can think of so many stories. The scariest one was I didn't meet this client until she had leased a property. It turned out it was in an industrial area, and her product and service had to do with children. So they didn't mix, and I questioned that right off the bat. She swore the real estate agent said it was okay. She could do gymnastics in this facility that it was zoned otherwise. And so she had to get an attorney and get a different use for that zone. But my other point was she also obligated herself to a $12,000 a month lease in that process. So she had to make it work, and for 5 years. And so that's a fixed expense. And if you're producing things and filling warehouses full of inventory, even if that warehouse is empty, you still have the fixed expense of paying the rent for that warehouse. It's kind of the theme we're getting on there.
And that goes into your break-even point each month. You have to cover those fixed costs. You have to cover the dynamic situation.
If you haven't covered all your costs, yeah, you're right. The fixed and the variable, you're going to go out of business. And I've had clients that have had up and down cash flows, and you've got to figure out a way to smooth those out and then exceed them, because even if you just cover your break even, that's a nice thing to know each month, and you can take a deep sighing breath of air. But isn't that the phrase? Deep sigh of, I don't know, a relieving breath of air, knowing you crossed that number, and it's different for everybody. But if it's 20,000 and you cross the 20,000 path, now you're in the profit zone for that month, because you've got to make more than cover your costs. You have to bring in revenue and income, obviously, to make a profit as well, mm-hmm. which I kind of brings us to the next category, I guess, compensation, because
how will you make money? What is your pricing strategy?
we had a great example of the pricing strategy recently, Elizabeth and I, and it was with a clothing manufacturer. And the interesting thing about pricing, and I think we've had archived webinars on that, do we not?
Yep.
And it's certainly a full conversation with a face-to-face client, but it's not a science is the whole issue. It's a true art. And if there was a formula we could hand everyone and they just fill in the blanks for the formula and come out with the answer, it'd be so much easier, but it's not. And it brings in the whole issue of value for sure, and what people perceive as value. And today the perception of value is relevant to everybody, sometimes in a different way. We've learned with the World Wide Web, right? Mm-hmm. Everybody has a different perception, and the value could be strictly in the time issue. I'll pay anything if you give me that. It just saved me the time of doing it, let's say. But it means something for everybody. But again, you gotta understand this stuff, right?
Yeah. So why is the profit margin important again? I think we all know this deep down, but the profit margin, Tom, take it away. What do you think?
Well, yeah, we're not in cover our costs, have fun. There are other reasons to go in business, and I have to admit there are some very altruistic business owners that we've worked with, and they want to give back to the community. They want to provide charities a big chunk of their profits, but you still have to make profit first is the whole issue. And so you can be as generous as you want, the more money you make. So we're really in business to make money. Otherwise, I don't know how worthwhile it would be for you. I know I've seen lots of businesses fail just because the family won't back them up. When you start a business, it takes a lot of, like we keep saying, time, money, and energy. But even that time factor, you're working all day producing what you've got to produce and taking care of customers. And then you go home, and now you've got to do the books. Now you got to get strategic about your next advertising campaign, and you've got family that don't support you in that endeavor. It can be really difficult. So we want to help our clients build a business that is profitable. Then you can be as generous to the world as you want. You can also get to a place in time where then you can expand and hire people and get people doing some of the jobs you're doing because you're wearing so many hats initially.
And this goes into the last point a little bit, which is every sale a new effort or a transaction only, or will it result in a quasi-guaranteed follow-up revenues and purchases?
I don't even know what that means.
It's more expensive. When you lose a customer, it's
good point.
The worst possible thing that can happen.
They say your best client is your existing client. You can always go to them with new products and expanded services and such. But true to the point there is that if I have a product where I used to sell wind turbines. I mean, if you sell a wind turbine, it was just a handful of people that wanted a second one. I mean, that transaction was kind of over, and you had to start from scratch and get a new client, right? And so if you can create something which I love as a revenue source, memberships as an example, or consulting fees or retainers like attorneys and blah, blah, blah. The point is, especially let's go back to the memberships. If you can get a client that wants to use your gym as an example, and you can get them to pay monthly to keep coming back to your gym, wow, isn't that fun? Now you just go get the next athlete, right, that wants to come to your gym. Is kind of the theme. We also got into that issue in costs we didn't emphasize, but some companies incur all of their costs before they get paid. Wow, what if your business model was, I got paid and then I incurred costs? Because I have so many clients in construction in particular, I can think of as an example. They send their craftsmen and women out to job sites, and that's a vehicle, and that's gas, and that's maintenance, that's labor. They come back, they want to get paid Friday, and I haven't been paid as the business owner quite yet from that job. Well, how do you do that? Well, now, are you creating accounts receivables? Are you the banker now for your clients or customers, or is just that the way it was built? But if you're in charge, you can build these models any way you want. Maybe they should have charged something up front, and there's like a lot of contractors do now, they'll pay on what's that called? Periodic method, there are points in the agreement. I build it out to this and you owe me this, and you build it out to here. You get what I mean. I can't think of the term. But
we're still in compensation.
So where does that, how much time do we have?
We have about 15 minutes.
Oh, we cranked it, didn't we? I love it. Okay, and are people sending in questions already as well? No, we didn't ask them to. We told them, hold your questions to the end. No.
If there's anything you would like us to elaborate on, please ask a question. I anticipate we will get a few at the end.
I think initially we were so worried we'd get bogged down and wouldn't get through all of it. I think we've given you a little, did we talk about the competition and compiling quite yet?
We have not yet.
So maybe we could touch on that a little bit. On the competition side, it's all,
who is your competition? How are you different from them?
Because I had a great question from a brand new client last week. Why do I have to go through all the energy of building this model, Tom, when there are others out there doing exactly what I plan to do, and they're successful, right? I go, oh, all the more grasshopper, build this plan, please. Because you don't know, the idea is how do you differentiate yourself from your competitor? So you're hoping that you don't spend as much to produce what you're offering. That'd be a way to stay out of the competition, because if you can cut your costs in some manner or form, you found vendors that don't charge you for 90 days and you can build your product, sell it, get paid for your customer, and then pay the vendor. And that's another method of not incurring costs before you get paid. You're going to be really competitive. The other things that make you competitive are things that are unique to you. If you have a special training, I have clients that are really experts in a lot of professions, and I just admire them for that. But at the same time, it makes them a better competitor, because others might have started a business in that same with that same product or service or something similar, and they don't even have that talent or that training or background. Anyone that has a what do you call it? They have a patent, or what do you call that? It's a little two-letter initial.
Trademark?
I'm just drawing a blank. But if you have, you're right. If you have trademarks and copyrights on certain things, and literally have inventions that you've been able to patent, intellectual property, that's what I'm trying to think of, IP. If you have intellectual property, that's an asset. And if you have trade secrets, I mean, think about Coke. They didn't want to create a patent for the Coke formula because everyone could read it, and then just wait till the patent ran out, and they adjust it slightly and compete with them that way. They just kept it in a safe, is the story, but that's a trade secret, so they held on to it and didn't expose it to the world. But that is intellectual property, and that is an asset, and that's worth something. But how you're going to produce a product or service better than a competitor, satisfy your clients better than your competitors, and do it in a cost-effective way and still make a profit, it is noteworthy and worth your energy and time to intentionally build your business so you can do all of that. And that's why you don't just say others are doing it. I had another, are we done? We're still good, right?
So we do have a couple questions coming in.
So while you're trying to digest those, let me share another one. I had someone say, hey, you know what? Why do I go through all this energy to build out your model? But who really cares what the product or service is? As long as I've got good marketing, I can sell anything. Well, that might be true for a while. I don't know. But once the reviews come in, remember we have social media today, once people find out that you're not relevant or you have a bad product, your business will fail. I don't know how long you keep that up. That's kind of like fooling the people. That was easier in the age of the seller versus the age of the customer, as we've been talking about, sharing that other author's idea. And you can go, we've archived that webinar as well, so you can go take a peek at it. The age of the seller, I'm sorry, versus the age of the customer. The age of the customer is the actual title. But it would prove to you pretty quickly, people are too savvy and have too much information. The scariest thing you have to contend with is that people can go on the internet now, not only find out all the information they want about a product or service or some industry, they can find all the information they want about you and your competitors, and they can be whirling around even in your website and leave and dismiss you and go do business with a competitor, and you don't even know it happened. That's the scary part. Mm-hmm. So how do you combat that? And there are ways. And
absolutely.
That's another conversation as well.
One last thing that we would like to share with you before we get into these questions is, after you've worked on this awesome blueprint and you've answered these questions and you've hit the pavement, you've worked some of these problems out, and you're ready to, make the next step to a full-blown business plan. If you're looking for lenders, we use a great tool here at the CSUB SBDC. It's called Live Plan.
Good point. That's the transition from this, isn't it? If you can complete this, you can complete a wonderful, polished business plan.
And not all businesses need the full business plan, but
if they're going to borrow money, they will. And even if it isn't initially, if they bootstrap through their own capital or the sales from their customers initially, if they finally, that was kind of one of our compensation questions was, how do you stay scalable? What would it really cost for you to expand your business? And I just had a split thought about capacity issues, but that could be another conversation.
This is a great tool to help with forecasting, and you get these beautiful graphs from entering this information, and it's changeable. One of the quotes I saw, I wish I could remember who said it, was, "No business plan survives its first customer interaction."
Oh, I like that.
That was when I was doing
a webinar. I love it.
That was I was doing my research. And so with that being said.
So this is a segue then, as Elizabeth is pointing out, to even a full-blown business plan. But wow.
You ready for some questions?
How positive you can fill all these blanks in, mm-hmm. and really make something work.
So let's get into the
questions. Tell me, I can hardly wait.
So someone wanted to know, how do you make that transition from technician to strategist? Like, how does that work? Since I know many business owners who it's their baby and they have it all up in their head. They know exactly what they want to be done and they know how to do it. How do they?
That's a great question. And I got a couple thoughts. One, that's kind of the emphasis and the theme on my private practice. And I'm not suggesting you go to my private practice to do this, but if you just buy an inexpensive little book that's like $17, you get it anywhere, probably get it used on Amazon. It's the E-Myth Revisited by Michael Gerber. It only has the word revisited for the fact that he rewrote it, I think, a year after he wrote the first version. But it's this wonderful theme throughout where he's talking to a woman who owns a bakery and how even just her passion for making pies herself and being the technician in her business, how she's confronted with all these other business processes, exactly what we're talking about now. You read that and that'll give you a glean on that. I personally would tell you just the fact that you understand and you can articulate the fact that you are a technician in your business. There's no sin in that, as I said earlier, when you're building a model that you want to perfect and make it right. It just has to get to a point, though, where you work beyond your fingertips and go from an infant to I call it adolescent stage of your business, and then into mature stage, where you gradually build the business to a place where you can add a layer of supervisors or managers and start delegating more, and you build those build each of those jobs. You delegate, you don't abdicate. That's part of the whole thing. So as long as you see now there's a light at the end of the tunnel that, oh, I will get to a place where I won't be doing all the jobs and spinning all the plates on the sticks myself, but I will get to a place where now my choice is simply, do I sell out and buy an island in the Pacific and retire forever, or do I just hire someone to take my place in the business and keep reaping the rewards of the profits and other people run it, or do I replicate? And there are opportunities out there, even through existing clients we have now, to create franchises even. And that's the replication, and that's where you have to build business processes and document them. And that's part of that whole thing too. But if you get that book, that'll be a precursor.
What was the title of the book again?
And it's called The E-Myth Revisited. So it's the article, the, T-H-E, and a giant capital E as an echo, hyphen myth, M-Y-T-H. And it's an easy read. The print's big. I can even see it. It's about 180 some pages by Michael Gerber, not related to the baby food industry, but a wonderful man who created a whole point of view about business that I adopted in licensings and certifications early in my consulting career, and I've enjoyed it to this day. But a really nice point of view.
Awesome. So we have some kind of industry-specific questions, which we will probably just contact you directly.
Buy now.
Buy now. Sign up with.
Sell tomorrow.
With the CSUB SBDC.
We have advice that way. I don't know.
No, yes. Sign up with the CSUB
Chicago
SBDC
buy,
if
New
you
York
are.
sell. Isn't that how it goes? I don't know.
If you are in our
Keep it
service
out.
area.
Oh, yeah, I think that's the caveat of this whole thing. If I haven't explained something that well, or we've touched things too lightly, I think the essence of it is that if you just understand there is a tool there, and you can document everything you're thinking about and how you envision your company, but we can also do it with a layer of customer development, which is simply saying what we've said from the beginning. Just don't base everything on assumptions and die young in this business. Let's make sure we can verify it and add strength to it, and then not leave any of the other business processes to guessing games either. Everything's intentional when you're in business. Everything has to be thought out. I help you do that. So if worst comes to worst, no, I didn't mean it that way, but come see us. Yeah.
Absolutely. And that, I think, touches on another question that I do think is very important, since many small business owners have this problem, is how do you find out how to hire employees, and where do you look for things like accounting, and how do you determine if these are the right employees or services for your business? And this is something that happens here all the time.
We deal with that, yes.
So Tom, what do we do?
No, I agree with you. Our customers ask that all the time. We can give them a list of resources. There are entities in our county and our city that are training people, that some are even will subsidize salaries to, and even if you're not looking for that, there are obviously entities out there to find good candidates. I always used to say, you're going to get what you fish for. I mean, you've got to have fish in the right pond sometimes for the right people. But that by itself, great. That could be a webinar by itself to an HR person with regard to that, because that does bring in the whole world of human resources, which is a tough law to follow in California. My sense, my editorial there, based on my clients, it's something that you can't miss a beat on. You got to play by the laws.
Oops.
Yes, ma'am.
Nothing.
Oh, okay. Said oops, and I thought, oh, she cut me out. I'm not live.
No, you're good.
So that, please come in and let's have that addressed even further, so we can get to the heart of that issue.
Well, I just want to say thank you to all of our viewers and listeners today for coming by and listening to this awesome tool available to you. If you would like the handouts in the blueprint, Tom is willing to share his model with you. Please complete the survey, fill out your email. We will definitely send it to you. I wanted to say thank you again on behalf of the CSUB SBDC and our
Thank you,
regional memory. Thank you,
Elizabeth,
Tom.
for being such a good host here and participating so thoroughly and positively. Thank you.
Thank you.
And for everyone for listening in, God bless you.
Awesome. Have a great rest of your day. If we did not get to your questions, we will be answering them via email. Take care.
Bye-bye.